Hi, this is Jason from Effective Dashboards, helping maintenance and reliability professionals get the most out of Power BI. So welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about automated email alerts. So we're going to be sending an email whenever a threshold, so for example, this value here is above a certain value. Now, we've covered this before in previous videos. However, the difference this time is that we're going to send an email that's going to contain an embedded set of results. So this table here is going to be embedded within an email, and we're going to have some custom text, and we're also going to embed a link here that's going to be able to directly take whoever reads this email back to the underlying Power BI report. So we're going to use Power Automate, and we're going to use a new feature that I've never covered before for Power Automate to create this, and I'm going to talk you through each and every step. Okay, so this is a report we're going to use, and this is a value here. So this is telling us that we're 2.76% above the budget for this point in the year. So for August, up to August, and we can see here it's represented as a cumulative cost and a cumulative budget here. We're 2.6% ahead of the budget, so we've overspent. And if this value is above 0, then we're going to send out an email that contains this information here in this table. Okay, which is pretty much the same as this. I would probably never put these two in the same dashboard, but just for the sake of demonstration purposes, it's in here just now. So let's go into Power Automate, and we'll start going through the steps to create this automated email. So it's monthly cost, so I'm going to, or the cost is updated monthly, so I'm going to create a scheduled cloud flow. And we're going to say, okay, and we're going to start this as of next month. And we can write at 10 AM, and we're going to repeat every month. Okay, and then we'll just create that. So we can see here we've got a reoccurring cloud flow here, interval every month. The next one we're going to do is we're going to go and use an action that's going to run a query against a Power BI dataset. Okay, so run a query against a dataset. And in here we're going to enter the workspace and the dataset. And the dataset here is going to be maintenance cost dashboard. And then we've got this query text here. Okay, so if you're proficient at writing queries against a dataset, then great, you can just enter that information straight into there. If, however, you're not, like me, then what we can do is go back to the Power BI report, or the PBIX file, so the report in Power BI desktop, and we're going to go and view Performance Analyzer. We're going to use Performance Analyzer. So we're going to go and start to record and then refresh visuals. So each of the visuals has now got a section here, and this is the visual that we're after. Okay, this one here. So we just need to find that description in here, which is this one here. Year-to-date cost versus budget. And then we can see there's an option at the bottom here to copy the query that created this number here. So we're going to copy that, and then we're going to go back into the Power Automate action, and we're going to go and just paste that query into there, and that's all we need to do. Okay, so that's going to give us all the information we need to actually generate that number. So I'm going to go and test this just to make sure that the number's been generated correctly. So to do that, I'm just going to save it, and then I'm going to click on test, and I'm going to click on test manually. And I'm going to run flow. So I do like to do a test every time we add a significant step, just to make sure everything's running properly. Okay, so the flow's run successfully, and what we can see here, and this is great, this really helps you debug what's happening. Workspace, dataset, and here's the query that we run, and here's the output here. Okay, so we've got basically an array that contains an object. So that's what these square brackets indicate that this is an array, and then within that array we've got one object which has basically got this combination of properties and values. So the property there is total cost year to date versus budget year to date difference, and there's the value here. Okay, so it's exactly what we need. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go and extract this value here. So that's going to be the next step we're going to do. Okay, so I'm back in Power BI, and I'm going to go and I'm going to rename this to be something a bit more meaningful. So get YTD cost versus budget percentage value. Okay, so when we go back and look at this, we understand exactly what's happening here. We're getting that value of this query. So I've got to take that value and we're going to store it in a variable. So let's type in variable here. and we're going to initialize a variable. Okay, so that's basically getting a variable, defining it, and we can also set the value, the initial value of that variable. So we'll call this target value. We will create it as a float, and in here we are going to type in an expression that's going to get that value there. Okay, that 0.0276 I think it was. Okay, so to help understand how this expression that we're going to enter into this value here is constructed, I've just opened up a notepad here. So this is the output from this step here. And we can see it's a fairly straightforward output. It's an array with one object, which is basically a table, which has got a value and a property and a value. Okay. Now the expression that we're going to type into this value here is going to be outputs, and it's the output of this here, which is going to basically be referred to this section of code here. And we want to use only the first table row. Now we'll cover that first table row function a bit later on, but basically there's only one table here in one row, so it's fairly straightforward here. And then we want to then go and extract from this the first row, which is basically referring to 0 here. Okay, and then in this row we want to extract the value of this property here, or the attribute. I'm never sure what property or attribute, but basically this name here, which is this here. Okay, so it's telling us to go to the first row in this table and get the value that's associated with this property here, which is this value here. Okay, so that's pretty much how that works. So let's copy that, and we're going to go back to value, we're going to go to expression, and we're going to enter that into there and click OK. And just hover above here and just make sure it's been pulled in OK. That looks good. And we are going to go and just save that. Okay, now I have created a set of comprehensive notes that come along with this that explains that in a bit more detail, so you'll be able to download those from the resources section. So let's go and test this. So we've now, everything's run successfully. So in here we can see that we've now got this number isolated here. Okay, so now it's isolated as a number, we can carry out a comparison against it, or some logic check against that particular number. Okay, so the next step now is to add a condition. So let's go into condition. We're going to add a condition control here. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if this variable here, this target value that we identified here, so is that target value there, is greater than or equal to, or greater than 0. Okay, so if it's greater than 0, it means that we're above the budget. Now, if it is, then it's going to go down this leg here. If it's not, it's going to go down this leg here. So if it's no, then we're not going to do anything. Now, you might want to send an email in here, but for the purpose of this, we're not going to do anything. If it's yes, we're going to go and send that email. So the first thing we need to do is add an action that's going to go and pull the data from the Power BI report. So let's go back into our Power BI report here, and we've still got Performance Analyzer open, and this time we want to go and we'll refresh the visuals again, and this time we want to go and get this cost versus budget with difference. So is it here? Okay, well either one of these we do actually, but we'll go to this one here, and again we're going to copy the query, right, and then we're going to go back into our Power Automate. Okay, so we're back in here, and we're going to go and use the same step here, or action here, which is to run a query against Power BI. There we go, run query against against Dataset, and it's under the Power BI section. And again, we're just going to put in the information, work management, and maintenance cost control. And in here, we're going to go and paste that query in. Now this query's got a lot more to it, as you can see here. Okay, so but it's going and pulling back that table of results into this particular data set here. Okay, it's running that data set and pulling that data set back into here. So that's just now got that data set. Okay, so we're going to go and run this just to test it, just to make sure it's working. Okay, now we can see it was above, it was true, the expression was true for this condition, and it went down this leg here, and we can see it's run this action here, and in here we can see that we've got this first table rows output here. Okay, and that's exactly what we need. And it has got, can you make that, I'm not sure you can make that a bit bigger, but we can see here it's got an array of objects. So the first, each one of them is a row in the table. Now this one here is the grand total is true, and that refers to actually this row here. This row here it refers to. And then we can see, let's go to the next one. So date, January 2022, and we can see that we've got the calendar month. That's a number for the calendar month. It's not the grand total, and we can see the maintenance cost is 61611. Now we can see here. Okay, and it's going to start to basically, and there's an object in that array for each one of these rows in the table, which is great and is exactly what we need. Okay, now the thing that we've got here, if we look here, is that the table headings for each of these is going to be this value here. Okay, so these are going to be the table headings. So they're not particularly great for, particularly this one here, for entering into a table that you want to embed into an email. So the next step is going to be to change these. Okay, so I'm back in Power Automate, and we're going to add another action. And in this action here, we're going to use another data operation called select. Okay, and it allows you to select from this this query here, or any query basically, but we're going to select from this one. I'm just going to change this here to be a different name. Okay, just to allow us to make sure that we know what that actually is. And then we're going to select from. Now, if we scroll down here, we can see that we have now got the option to select from the first one that we had, which is get the monthly value, or this is get the year-to-date cost versus percentage value. So it's this one here, and it's first table rows, which is going to be the output from here. And then we can see we've got the option to map a key and a value. So the key is going to be the new name. So let's call this month. And in here, let's call this an expression, or we need to use an expression basically. So we need to go to this expression here, and in here we're going to start off by writing an expression. So it's going to be item, and then open brackets, open close brackets, and then we need to put a question mark, and then open square brackets, and then open these commas here. So the item that you're going to extract from this result here is going to be in here. So the item we want, if we open this up, the first one is going to be the date. So let's find the date in here, and here it is here. Okay, date, calendar, month, year. So let's copy that. And I think actually I should have done that first. Yeah, okay, let's do this again. Expression, it's lost it. Item, question mark. And then in here I'm going to paste this. Okay, so that is what we need here. Now, one of the things I've noticed is that it's actually surrounded this here with these open and closed, because this is a date, because it's a table name. Now you don't actually need that there. Okay, so that is what we need. Okay, so month, item. So let's just test this first of all, just to make sure it's working, and then we'll go back and add in the other ones. Okay, so we're back in here. I've run the test, and we can see it's all been successful. So let's open this up, and we can see these are the inputs, and we can see that the month, well, for the first row it was null because that was a grand total row, but we can see now that this now has got a month. Okay, so that's going to be the column header, and that's going to be the value associated with that month. So I've just done it for one at the moment just to test it, but we're going to go back and do it for them all. Okay, so that's me entered in the items for each one of these. I've changed that to cost, budget, difference, percentage difference. Now, one of the things to bear in mind here is that just getting the syntax right here, just make sure you get the syntax right here, because it's not always 100% obvious. But if you go in here, we've got the item. Now, this here needs to be in square brackets with the single commas at each side, a single quotes at each side, and then square brackets again. Okay, so just make sure that you've got that right. So let's go and test this and make sure that it returns what we think it's going to return. Okay, so we'll expand out the select statement, and in here we can see now that the output for this select statement, rather than have these rows here as the headers, we've got these here. Okay, month, cost, budget, diff, and diff percentage. However, what we have got is these numbers here, these formats here. So these formats are not particularly pretty. So I'm going to show you how you can actually address that. Okay, so you could format the expression here, and I'll explain how you format an expression later on, but for this one here, I'm going to show you how you can format it in the actual query itself. So we open up the query, and what I've done here is we can see that this one here, this budget, for example, is just a maintenance budget here. The maintenance cost, I've actually wrapped this with this format statement here. Okay, so format and then open comma, open brackets, and then I've basically the format function takes a value which is this maintenance costs, and then a comma, and then in inverted commas I've put this format here, which is the format we're going to use to actually convert it into actually something that looks like pounds. And I'll leave a link below to the format options that you can use, but that's going to be perfectly fine for these examples here. Might be different in your country for dollars for the example. So I'm just going to go and wrap a format statement around this budget here, the total cost YTD, which is going to be a cost, and then the percentage difference, which is this one here, which is going to be a percentage. So I'll go and wrap that around these, and then we'll get back onto it. Okay, so I have wrapped a format statement around the cost, the budget, the cost versus actual value, and the cost versus actual percentage, and we can see these here. Let's test this and see if it works. Perfect. Okay, so now we can see that we've got nicely formatted row headers, and we've got nicely formatted text here, which is well, it's formatted in the actual query itself, because of course we updated the query there. So excellent. That'll be that's the real building blocks for our table that we're going to go and create in the next step. Okay, so the next step is to create an HTML table. So let's add in an action here, and we will search for HTML table, and there is an option to create an HTML table if you spell it correctly. There we go, create HTML table, and we're going to create it from the output of this select statement here. Okay, so that is pretty much that statement there, but we do need to go and format that table. Okay, so let's run it and test it and just see what we get anyway. Okay, so I've expanded this open here, and we can see that we've got our table, and it's looking pretty good. However, we want to make this table look a little bit prettier. We're going to put a coloured banner, a coloured header on the top of it, and put some basically some lines either side of it. I mean, this is great. I mean, this is fine. This has worked pretty well. But just so that you can actually understand how you would format it, I'm just going to talk you through that step. Okay, so we're going to go and format the table. So to do that, I'm going to add a new action here, and this is going to be called a compose action. We're going to add a compose action. So a data operation, and all it does is really let you create a chunk of code that you can use later on. Okay. So in this chunk of code, we're going to have a style, and we're going to have the actual table. Okay, so now we've got the table here, so it's the output of this create HTML table is going to be the table we're going to use. But prior to that, I want to create a style. Now, to create the style, if you are competent with HTML and you want to just create the style, then you can go ahead and do that. However, you can use a style generator like this one here. Now, it seems to be that you do need to use this table th, table td for the rows and the cells, etc. So this one works really well, and you can just basically customize it how you want with the header colors, etc. Now I'm going to just use this one here, a blue background, dark headers with the actual rows here. Now it doesn't really matter if you add any text into here, because the only thing we're going to copy is going to be what's in between the style tags here. Okay, so just get a copy of that, and then Control C, and we're going to go back in here and we're going to paste that into here. Okay, and then at the bottom I'm going to add in some dynamic text, and it's going to be the output from this create HTML table. Okay, and we're going to go and save and check, or save and test that. Okay, so we can see that that style has been applied to this output, but of course actually we haven't actually rendered anything yet, but we'll test it in a second. But yeah, that's all there, and then here's the table here with that information, and it's just one massive line here, which is fine. We don't need to worry about that. That's just the output from this compose statement. So let's go back in, and we are now in the position where we can actually start to create an email that we can embed this table into. So add an action, and we're going to go and send email, and the one we're going to use is this Outlook Office send email. Now it might well be that it's V3 or even V4 depending on when you're going to be looking at this video, but this is the latest one here, and you could use it for Google Mail or any other options you've got for sending emails. So let's choose that, and then in here I'm just going to send it to myself. Obviously you can send it to any name you want, or names. Now the subject is going to be alert is. Now the maintenance cost year to date is, and now I want to embed a value in here, which is this target value. So remember, right at the very start, we captured this year to date cost versus budget percentage value. So I'm going to put that in there. However, what I want to do first of all is I want to format that as a percentage. Okay, so if I just put this target value in here, remember the target value was just 0.00, it wasn't a percentage basically. So this is a second option for actually for formatting this number. So I'm going to go to expression, and I'm going to type in format, and it's going to be formatNumber, open brackets, and then I'm going to go to dynamic content, and I'm going to put the target value in here, and then comma, and it needs a format. Okay, now the format I'm going to use is just going to be a P. Now I'll leave a link below to the options for formatting using this Power Automate formatNumber function, because it's different to the format function that's in the query that we had earlier, but you've got the two options, and they're just slightly different formats there, but P will just format this number as a percentage. So once that's done, we can click OK. Just make sure that's come across okay, that's fine. And I'm going to go and test this before we start writing the rest of the email. Okay, it's not working because we need to put something in the body here, so let's just actually go and actually stick in the table here. So the maintenance cost, and I'm going to just go and get this text here, and I'm going to copy it, use it again to add it into here as well. The maintenance cost is whatever percent above the budget for this time of the year. Okay, and then I'm going to put in here the table. So the table is going to be the output of the compose statement. So it's not this HTML table there, because you're going to get a table, but it won't be formatted with a nice header and the actual the lines, etc. So we're going to use the output of the compose statement. Okay, and then I'm going to put the Power BI report is here, and I'm going to go to the Power BI report. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to add a link. Call it maintenance cost versus budget report, and then stick that in there, and we'll open it in a new window and add it in. Okay. End in an upbeat note. Right, okay doke, so let's go and save that, and let's go and test it and see what it looks like. So it's good, it's got us as far as this email, and click to download. Now we don't need to click to download because I can go and visit my emails. So let's take these in here, and we can see I've tested it loads of times, but here's one here. Alert, the maintenance cost year to date is 2.76%. Should probably have expanded that to say above target. The maintenance cost is 2.76% above the budget for this time of the year, and then here's the results here, all nicely formatted with that format style that we used, and then here's a click to the actual Power BI report. So everything looks to be in order, and we've got a nice report there that somebody who's out and about and can look at it on their phone or look at it on the screen, and then decide if they want to go and visit the actual report here and get more details of what the actual issue is, and investigate a bit further. So hopefully you've found this useful. Hopefully you'll be able to find an application for it in your organization. Loads of possibilities here, and obviously loads of things you can do. You can send a Teams message, or you can send something to Slack or whatever it is. It doesn't need to be an email, and you can still embed that PowerPoint or that table. Okay, so if you found this useful, it's always much appreciated if you could give the video a thumbs up. And if you want to keep up to date with the latest videos, then hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever I release a video, which is more or less every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.